What's good, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Kinda Funny Games Daily. I'm your host, Andrea Renee, joined by Mr. Gary Whitta.
Hello.
Have they come up with a single moniker for you yet, Gary?
A single moniker?
You know how like Tim is the pure one, I'm the busiest lady in the business?
Oh, like a nickname? Like a catchphrase kind of thing? I don't know.
I saw Gare Bear in the Kinda Funny responses, and I was like, I kind of like that.
Let's throw it open to the community and see what they can come up with. Let's crowdsource it.
Okay, you guys heard him.
I didn't bring one with me. I didn't realize that was a thing. I don't have like a ready-to-wear one.
Normally Greg is the one who kind of dubs you with the moniker, but you guys are free to send in your suggestions at kindafunny.com/KFGD, where you can be part of the show. This, of course, is your source for nerdy news on video games and the culture that surrounds it. You can watch us live on twitch.tv/kindafunnygames. And if you are doing that, please help keep Gary and I honest. Go to kindafunny.com/you're wrong. If you find us get something inaccurate, a fact wrong, a name, a date, of course, again, that's not the place for editorializing. If you do have a point of view and wants to say something, of course, kindafunny.com/KFGD. You can find this show also on youtube.com/kindafunnygames and on podcast services around the world. So, Gary.
Yes.
Have you ever listened to this show on podcast format?
Yes.
What do you think of it?
I find it much more palatable when I don't have to look at Greg's face.
Well, at least he keeps his shirt on in the show.
Yes. Wait, is he known for taking his shirt off? I guess he is,
that
right?
That is Greg's thing,
That's part of that's his shtick. He's never done it with me here.
Oh, well, now you've just opened the door, Gary.
He knows better. He knows better than to mess with me like that.
He's going to listen to this and be like, all right, Gary, it's time to bring the Mario nips out. Tim, you know, I realized I forgot to ask you what you guys wanted to do for housekeeping today. So apologies, no housekeeping. I'm sure Miss Joey Noel will make sure that you guys know everything that's happening in the Kinda Funny universe over on Twitter at
the Kinda Funny
Vids.
Shared cinematic universe.
That's right.
Everything's connected.
They have their own lore, their canon. You know, there's some fanfic even out there.
I'm canon now. I'm canonical.
That's true.
I used to be just fan fiction, but now I'm like legit in the canon.
You're part of the crew, Gary.
That's amazing.
And this is our first show hosting together.
Anything I say now immediately becomes canon. Balls. I just said balls, and that's now canonical. Amazing.
Well, we try to keep it together on this show, at least as much as we can. So let's start the show with what is and forever will be the Roper Report. Time for some news. So today on the Roper Report, we have 3 items.
A baker's dozen.
Thanks, cool Greg. So as you guys know, if you've been listening to this show for the last couple of weeks, there has been a lot of talk about Electronic Arts and Star Wars Battlefront 2, microtransactions and loot boxes, star cards, etc. Yesterday, Greg and Tim talked extensively about what was happening over the weekend when the game went live in early access. Well, excuse me, not early access. Technically EA access, and then if you had a pre-order, you know, you could get access as well. And EA issued a response yesterday afternoon in response to the giant outcry on Reddit. Did you see?
Was it a huge? I mean, I've certainly heard about it. Was it a massive outcry?
It was so in the Reddit, the EA community team went into the Reddit to address all of these concerns about how expensive the heroes are in multiplayer, and it was the most downvoted Reddit comment of all time.
Seriously?
Seriously,
I can't even. I wonder what the prior record holder was before that.
I'm not sure, but if you guys know, hit us up at kindafunny.com/you're wrong. But I don't know who was the record holder before.
I just want to get my head around. Let's just say that again. EA's official response to this on Reddit was the least popular Reddit post of all time.
I believe
that's
so.
Quite an achievement.
Yes. It was, yesterday it was over 390,000 downvotes. I'm sure it's way past that now. So they issued a response after that response on their official blog in response to the community outrage. And here's what it read. Since the start of the project, listening to fans has been important in making sure Star Wars Battlefront 2 is the very best experience for all of you. We've stayed true to that with the closed alpha, through the beta last month, and now our Play First trial. That continues as we move towards worldwide launch this week, and we're making adjustments to the game based on player feedback. That includes a substantial change we're making today as we've been monitoring things during the Play First trial. We use data from the we use data from the beta to help set those levels, but it's clear that more changes are needed. We're reducing the amount of credits needed to unlock the top heroes by 75%. Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader will now be available for 15,000 credits. Emperor Palpatine and Chewbacca and Leia Organa for 10,000 credits. And Iden at 5,000 credits. Based on what we've seen in the trial, this amount will make earning these heroes an achievement, but one that will be accessible for all players. The change will be live today, which was yesterday, with an update that is getting loaded into the Play First trial and also the full game when it launches. We're not stopping there, as we're going to keep making changes to make the experience better. Stay tuned to our blog for continual updates on what we're seeing, hearing, and adjusting in the game. So your boy Joey wrote into kindafunny.com/KFGD and said, so with EA cutting the price of Heroes in Battlefront, is this a step in the right direction or is it too late? The full game has not been released yet, but bad press among gamers has already been achieved. I feel everyone will forget it in a day or two, but what do you guys think? I know,
First of all, I'm starting to feel like if I do I'm not on here every day. Obviously, I'm here once a week, but I feel like if I'm not on a show at this point where there isn't some kind of carefully crafted PR apology from EA, something's missing from the show. It just feels like an essential component of the show right now, like the EA damage control press release, walk back.
Yeah.
But it does seem like it's interesting, because as we all know, these games are so excruciatingly tested, right? And they go through alphas and betas and play tests and everything, trying to set the dials just right. And they're never going to get it exactly right. But to have to make a 75% adjustment to a core component of the game almost immediately after release suggests that they somehow, even through all the testing, got this way wrong, don't you think?
Absolutely. I think they looked at it and thought to themselves, we want to put a progression system in that keeps players coming back for more and incentivizes them to want to keep playing the game. But I think what's happening is we're not seeing a fine enough balance in these microtransactions to offset the fact that gamers are already paying a price of entry, right? So these kind of really grindy microtransactions or these kind of grindy progression mechanics, you usually find in a free-to-play game because they want to incentivize you to buy stuff because you didn't pay for entry into the game.
So before I talk myself into the you're wrong territory here, am I right in assuming that you can just unlock these characters with real money rather than grind for them?
Well, you buy credit packs and then you use those. So credits
you can
to
shortcut
characters.
The progression with real money.
Correct.
So it seems to me that's probably the reason why they erred on the side of the gameplay progression being too harsh, because I think what happens with a lot, and by the way, can I just say, and I'm sure the audience, I'm so sick of talking about fucking microtransactions and loot boxes every week, but it's not going away. There's a new scandal every week. There's drip, and whether it's Battlefront or Payback or whatever other game that's doing it this week, it's just it's unending, and it's deeply depressing for me for us both to have to be talking about this again. But in trying to unpack it all, it does seem like the reason why they wound up being too strict is that whenever these loot box systems are presented to the player, there's a basic choice that you're being given.
Yeah.
You're being asked, what's more valuable to you, your time or your money? Right? You can spend the time and unlock it the quote unquote kind of honest way, or you can just pay the money and circumvent all of that, shortcut it and get it all right away. And I think what they do is they deliberately make the time part of it look so, oh my God, really that much time to unlock it? I'll just give them the $5. Right? But if it seems like getting it through honest gameplay and just playing the game is fairly reasonable, I'll just play the game and get it that way, and I won't give them the $5. EA would rather get the $5. So I think they're going to put their thumb on the scale as much as possible in terms of making it seem like paying the money is more attractive than grinding through the traditional way. What happens is, though, they go too far. People complain, they have to rebalance the scale almost immediately. I think it's greed. This is greed. I think the reason why they got this wrong is greed.
I don't disagree, but I did think it was an interesting and eye-opening aspect of the conversation that Greg and Tim brought up in yesterday's show, talking about the public statements from a few people in the game development community taking responsibility and saying, hey, the conventional wisdom is that the publishers are the ones who are always in charge of this. But in reality, the development team are the people who craft what these loot boxes look like, who craft the progression of the microtransactions. And in one developer's case, he said the devs that he has worked with, one of them happened to be the most aggressive in the conversation about, how much grind should we put in there. And I thought that was really eye-opening and a little bit shocking, and something I certainly didn't expect to hear from people in the development community. But I do want to bring up another listener, Penguin724 says, hey, Gary and Andrea, longtime listener, first time writing in. So I hope I did this right. So I'm sure we all know EA has now lowered the price to unlock heroes by 75%, which is a huge amount, but this doesn't seem to be enough to please the people who cried out the loudest. I feel like EA has done everything right in this situation, as well as most things with the game as a whole. They've been listening. They added a campaign, removed the season pass. In the 10 hours that I've played the game so far, I never once felt compelled to spend extra money or crates, nor do I think I would notice if someone did, as opposed to just being better or a higher level. Now, I don't see my experience in the game being hindered by not choosing to put more money into the game or coming up against a person who does. Maybe it's just the fact that I see this as a more casual shooter. Anyway, I just wanted to know what your opinions are on how EA has handled this, and throw my 2 cents in the ring. Love everything you guys do, and add to kind of funny. And Gary, thank you for my favorite Star Wars movie. I credit you entirely.
Well, he shouldn't credit me entirely, but I nevertheless thank you very much. It's very kind. So I do think you make an interesting point about, like, who do you point the finger at, right? Everyone assumes that the publishers, that the developers craft this lovely game, and then the suits from EA come along and says, no, we must gouge the players as much as possible. Maybe it's not as simple as that. I don't know. Maybe I don't think that any developer is building their game based on a financial imperative rather than a creative one. I think they want their game to be as fun as possible. It may just be that they honestly believe that the most creatively fun version of the game is the one that has a harder loot grind and is more aimed at players that really play a lot and want to feel like that they really got something with that achievement. But it's hard to square that with the fact that they are just giving you the option, just pay, come on, just give us the money. It's so easy. It's that to me, I think it's hard to figure out who to point the finger at. I do think, and I've been reading some of this on Polygon and on Waypoint, on some of the other sites I've been reading this week, the whole business of these developers getting death threats over it is absolutely outrageous. And whoever's doing that needs to knock that the fuck off, because these are video games, and yes, we're annoyed, but if you start sending people death threats, you need to get your fucking priorities straight. That is way out of line. Stop it. But we do, at the same time, we do need to, we're at the beginning of this whole process of trying to find our way through this loot box microtransaction progression maze. It's a mess right now. I don't think any company is close to figuring it out, and I think it is because when it comes down to it, they are always going to put their thumb on the scale in favor of how can we get them to give us their money. And one of the ways to do that is to make the loot progression just really restrictive and excruciating. So you just go, fine, I'll give you the money. But I hate it.
I do too. I think that there's absolutely a place for loot boxes and microtransactions in video games, but I think we just have seen only a few developers really do it the right way and really focus purely on cosmetic items. And I think that plays into why people are so upset about what is happening in Battlefront 2, is that these heroes aren't just a cosmetic skin. They have special abilities, and they tend to be more powerful than the generic troopers that you get to play with. And that's why people, I think, are looking at it like, hey, I don't have $200 to spend on microtransactions to help advance myself through the multiplayer. I have to, pay my $60 to $80 or $100, depending on which version of the game you bought, just to get in, and I just can't pay anymore.
Well, and it's a vicious cycle as well, isn't it? Because there will always be a we've talked before about how a lot of the microtransactions and in mobile, a lot of the economic activity comes from the small subset, the whales, the people that will always spend the money, right? They'll always buy the loot boxes, and maybe they're rich or they've got nothing better to do with their money. They'll just spend, and they'll unlock Vader and all these characters right away. But for people like me, I go into the game day one and I'm getting the shit kicked out of me by 20 Darth Vaders. Maybe I'm more likely to go, Jesus Christ, I don't want to play the game like this for 6 weeks while I get my own Darth Vader. Maybe I should just pay the money. And it perpetuates itself. I don't know if that's a valid theory. I know this much. I have Battlefront 2 and Need for Speed Payback, 2 EA games sitting on my desk at home right now ready to play. I have been very excited about playing them both. But then I'm reading a lot of the fallout in both because Payback has it as well. You want every little piece of progression is a grind that you can shortcut through paying real money. And it's killed almost all of my enthusiasm to play these games. I'll still play the campaign for Battlefront because that's what I wanted from the first game. And that at least is immune from the microtransaction cancer. But I'm very, very unlikely to want to play the multiplayer version of it because this bullshit. I'm tired of the bullshit, Andrea.
Me too, Gary.
But what do we do about it?
Well, I think that we as pundits and reporters and analysts of the business of this games industry, we can identify who's doing it well. We can talk about who's not doing it well, and we can say, hey, like, we understand that game development costs have risen. Like, this has been like the rallying cry for a lot of developers in these last couple of weeks, saying, hey, like, we can't do this without microtransactions at a $60 price point anymore. The base price of a game hasn't risen in many years, and costs continue to go up, and we just can't afford to not charge for something post-launch or in-game. And because of that, I think that we as a community, as lovers of video games and lovers of the art and the joy and the fantasy of everything that a video game entails, have to find a happy medium, have to meet them in the middle somewhere and go, okay, we get it. We know it's expensive for you guys to be able to deliver these over-the-top, blockbuster, AAA experiences. Like, you need to charge more. Let's talk about what that looks like and what kind of value you get for that. And it's a tough conversation to have because that sliding scale is different for everyone, and it's different for every type of developer. Some developers can afford to give you more in the game and charge you less on the back end. Look at a game like GTA 5. I bring this up constantly as a game that has an incredible amount of value for like a base game price. Do they have microtransactions in the game? Absolutely. But are they 100% optional? Yes, because it's all cosmetic stuff. And you look at a studio like Rockstar and go, well, they can afford to not necessarily, charge for every little thing because they've had such a successful stable of games in their studio's career. But maybe some of these smaller studios or new studios can't necessarily take as big of a financial risk. Obviously everyone wants to point the finger at big bad EA. Like, I do. People love to hate EA, and that's been a thing for years. This is not a new thing that people love to hate EA, but they make great games. They make a lot of fantastic franchises and games that people love.
But they're ruining them now. They're ruining them with this new model that people just find really annoying. Like I said, 2 games that I was really excited to play. Like, I don't know if I'll even get to them now because I know that this is the treadmill I'm going to be on.
I agree that it's gone out of control. It's swung too far in the other direction. And I have said previously, if you look just at the raw numbers and what EA specifically, not including other people like Activision and other people who have in-game purchases, but like if you look at how much money they made from 2015 to 2016, a $2 billion jump in profits just from 1 year. Of course, they're going to look at 2017 and go, how can we push that number and push that goal even farther? And I think, like you mentioned, it kind of is this greediness kind of has run away from them, and the idea that like, hey, maybe like $3.6 billion was a good enough number for our in-game profits. Maybe we stop there and go, okay, we feel comfortable with that. The audience felt comfortable with that. Maybe we don't need to keep pushing it. But that's not the way that it worked, right? And so now they're clearly testing the limits, and it's backfired on them, I think, in a really spectacular fashion in multiple games for them this year. And I hope that they take the lessons learned from this and say, okay, we clearly need to have some in-game revenue to support ongoing games as services, right? How do we do that and make it fair and make it so that we can still make profits and do right by the teams that we have to pay and also not screw over the people who are buying our games?
It's backfired on them in the realm of media and PR and Reddit and all of that. But at the end of the day, they might not care. If they're looking at their numbers and they're seeing the microtransaction dollars rolling in, and there's a very vocal minority of players that are saying, I'm mad as hell, I'm not going to take it anymore. And they have to deal with that because it's embarrassing for them. I get that. But if they then just walk across the hallway to their bean counters and say, look, the silent majority, look at all the money we're making. That's at the end of the day is going to trump any PR That's why they pay the PR people, just to deal with that so they can continue to make money
I have
over
to hold
here.
out hope here, Gary. I know that you're very upset, but I'm holding out hope that that's not the only case. I hope that people are listening. And listen, they wouldn't have put out these multiple statements if they didn't care. Right?
Well,
they would have just sat
get,
back and, as you said, counted their beans, and let the game launch and know that Star Wars is such a gigantic title that probably would have carried them through success through the holiday to parents who don't read or watch any gaming news and don't know what Reddit is, right? Like they could have done that, but they didn't. They reached out and they responded and they acted swiftly. And I think that that's important to recognize.
Because they identified it as a potentially damaging thing that they had to fix before it got out of control, right? They care about their image and they care about this affecting their bottom line.
Right?
No, I'm saying that at the end of the day, if there's an equation between, well, the microtransaction thing has cost us this much in the public arena, but at the end of the day, like it nets out, we are making more money, then they're just going to keep doing what they're doing. The point you made about the game prices having not risen, I'm going to wander again into your wrong territory here, but I think I'm right in saying, we talked about this briefly before the show, that games went from 50 to 60 when the 360 came in. Around that time, when the 360, I remember when the 360 came out, there was a kind of a side story of like, oh, by the way, games are going to be $60 now. And people complained, but now $60 is just considered the norm. We've gone 1.5 generations since then, right? Because now we're in the era of the 1X and the PS4 Pro. Games are still $60 unless you buy a special edition or whatever. I would honestly rather they just say, you know what, games are $70 now, or games are $75, but that's how we're going to make our money, and we won't mess with you at all on the back end. Like we're not going to let monetization affect the way that we approach designing these games. You're going to have a free run at the game. We're never going to ask you for a nickel after you've bought the game because we got it all from you up front. I would honestly much rather them do that. I think that would get this cancer out entirely, but I don't think you're going to see it, because I think even if games were $70, I think they would still make more money at 60 plus the microtransactions.
Well,
so I don't know if this is going away anytime soon.
That's certainly true, but I think it's also important to remember this shifting development model into live games and games as services. A game like Destiny 2, for example, or even a game like PUBG that has an entry-level price point, but then says, hey, like, we're going to keep building on this game. We're going to keep iterating. We're going to add new modes. We're going to add new cosmetic items. We're going to add tentpole events around the year, maybe around holidays, or we're going to organize fan events in-game. And to do that, to make all of those things in the game, they have to sustain that model somehow. It's not like a game like Wolfenstein 2, for example, where you pay the price up front, you have your experience, and then the game is done.
Right.
I mean, obviously Wolfenstein is having DLC come out and you can pay for those packs individually, but like it's not like you can constantly log into Wolfenstein 2 every day and have something new to play. Right? There's not like a daily story mission or things like that you're seeing in some of these other games. So I understand why these have a place in game development. And I feel like we're kind of talking a little bit in a circle, so I do want to put a pin in this, but I have
a feeling this topic will be right back next week or tomorrow when the next scandal breaks.
Indeed. But I just wanted to like slide that into the conversation as something for you guys to think about. And clearly a bunch of you wrote in about this. It was hard for me to sift through and find stuff that wasn't about the EA loot boxes in Star Wars Battlefront 2. But that was EA's response. This is a little bit of our talk about it.
Let's see what happens with it. I mean, the game's only been out for a couple of days. You know,
it hasn't even technically released yet. In new dates, we talk about the deluxe edition, which you can get in today. But if you're buying like the base game, you don't get to start playing until Friday.
So for the vast majority of people that will come to the game, this first of what I'm sure will be many tweaks and fixes has already been implemented.
Fixed, yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And like, I know we're moving on, but let me just to kind of put a button on it.
Sure.
I personally have no problem with loot boxes and progress. I love opening boxes. That little kind of when something opens, it's delightful. Oh, I got a thing, and it's really fun. And I love cosmetics, like when Overwatch or Team Fortress Halloween or holiday skins come out. That's always really fun. It's delightful to kind of open up those things. It's when it feels like the game has got its hand out, you know, asking for money every 5 minutes, that it starts to get tricky. And I just think that as soon as you incorporate an economic equation into your game design on that level, the human nature of greed it's almost impossible to rein in, and it will always result in problems like this, where again they got too greedy and they had to almost immediately correct it. We're going to see this again and again for a long time, I fear.
Well, let's hope not. All right. Next up on the Roper Report, Mario Brothers are set to jump to the big screen in a movie deal with Universal's Illumination. So I got this story via Kotaku, but it is originally sourced from the Wall Street Journal. Illumination Entertainment and Universal Pictures are close to reaching a deal with Nintendo for an animated Super Mario Brothers movie. Illumination is the company behind Despicable Me, which foisted Minions onto the world. I love the Minions, personally. While Universal Pictures remains one of the largest film studios in the world. The last and only feature-length movie to star Mario was the 1993 Super Mario Brothers starring Bob Hoskins.
I saw that at the theater. I saw that in cinemas, yeah.
And do you still love it? Do you have fond memories?
I haven't seen it again. I should revisit. It feels like a fun one to revisit. Obviously, it's become notorious over the years. But I feel like doing it this way, animation, this is much more like, I think they're much more likely to get it right this way.
Yeah, I think you can't really do a live action Mario without it looking hokey in some way or another, right? Just because of...
Why would, why would we even want to do it in live action? I never understood the point of it.
I mean, you got to get Charles Martinet to voice his iconic character.
So in the same way that like the one thing that I thought the Transformers movies did right is they made sure they got Peter Cullen, right, for Optimus Prime, like so that people felt like that's the voice that we all know. Yes, you absolutely have to get Charles Martinet to do the voice. Hey, can I just say one of my favorite little delights in the video game industry is watching Charles Martinet do that voice. Watching it come out of a real person is uncanny.
He's such a lovely human being too. One of my first interviews at my very first E3 way back in 2008, and he was just a delight. And I've run into him a couple of times over the years.
How long has he been doing it now, that voice?
Since the original. So he's been doing it for over 20 years now.
Since Mario had a voice.
Correct.
Right. He's the only voice of Mario that there's ever been.
Correct.
I mean, it's irreplaceable, right? So I think that will be I'm thumbs up on this. I think an animated Mario movie it's no reason why it couldn't be fantastic. I think Illumination has a great track record. They make really good animated movies. I think this could potentially be really great. I think the potential pitfall, and this is if I was in a room with them now kind of pitching on this movie, this is what I'd be saying. Like the challenge is taking a world of characters that very rarely have much to say. Like Mario's got a handful of little snappy catchphrases, but he would have to have presumably real dialogue in this movie.
Right.
And, they're going to have to, Peach, she never really talks. Bowser never has a voice. You have to find a way to give them voices. And I suspect that there's many ways that they could do that would be great. But I would say this, if I were to hear, if the next news drop on this was, oh, good news, someone other than Charles Martinet, like some big star or whatever, is going to do the voice of Mario, then I would start flipping tables.
Let's hope it doesn't get to that. But Alice wrote in to kindoffunny.com/KFGD and says, good day to you and yours. Mario. Please tell me why everything has to be a movie. Thanks. Well, as our resident movie expert, since you have actually worked on real films, why does everything have to be a movie?
Not everything has to be a movie, but I don't see any reason why this can't be a good one.
I agree. Arguably, and I think I've said this before on the show, the most iconic and recognized video game character of all time across the world.
Yes.
You put that photo of Mario in front of someone, almost everybody in your life knows exactly who that is.
I was thinking about that just the other day. My wife and I were playing Odyssey, and we were thinking about like the iconic nature of Mario as a character. And I was thinking, do you think you could take a picture of Mario, like Mickey Mouse is always considered the gold. You could show a picture of Mickey Mouse to almost any kid in the world, and they would know who he is, right? Do you think Mario is as widely known as that at this point?
As Mickey Mouse?
As Mickey Mouse.
I would say yes, and if not, yes, a close second, only because Mario hasn't been around as long as Mickey Mouse has. Mickey Mouse has about 40 years, if not 50 years on Mario.
He has more than that, but for the current generation of kids, that doesn't matter. Mario and Mickey Mouse have been around for as long as they've been alive.
Yeah,
so
I would say yes.
My guess is that Mario, in a global kind of brand awareness test, would do as well, if not better, than Mickey. I think there's a version where he's actually more recognizable. Because Mickey Mouse is well known as like a brand, and like when you think of Disney, you think Mickey Mouse. But like, when's the last time Mickey Mouse had like a major movie or a video game or something? It's been a long time. And Mario is in the pop culture like constantly. I think he's fresher than Mickey, as sad as it may be. He's fresher. He's fresher than Mickey. I think this could potentially be really great.
Yes, I hope that this doesn't go by the wayside. So many of these projects we hear about in early development and then they never come to fruition. And I would really love to see a large-scale Super Mario Brothers movie, especially if it's done by an animation studio who has a track record of fantastic performance.
Oh my God, my kid would love it. I mean, she watches the Super Mario Brothers Super Show on Netflix. Remember that one?
I don't No, I don't.
Have you never seen it? Oh my God, go to
Maybe.
Netflix. They have them all on there. It's these weird kind of like a live action Mario and Luigi who have these little comedy skits, but then there's like an animated show in between. And
Okay.
you check it out, Super Mario
will.
Brothers Super Show.
Netflix.
Hooked on the Brothers. You never seen this? Oh my God, that's my Netflix recommendation.
I know what I'm doing when I go home.
Super Mario Brothers Super Show. Oh my God, it's the best. Yeah.
Okay, the last item on the Roper Report. The Game Award nominations have been announced. So
I had a feeling you might be squeezing this one into the show.
well, we've had a lot of talk about Game of the Year, and I'll get to that in just a second. So over on Gama Sutra, they did a little write-up. The nominees for the 4th Annual Game Awards have been revealed, and big hitters like Super Mario Odyssey, Destiny 2, Wolfenstein 2, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and Horizon Zero Dawn are all up for multiple awards. There's also plenty of choice outside the AAA bubble with indie offerings like What Remains of Edith Finch, Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, Cuphead, Night in the Woods, and Bury Me, My Love, all in contention. Notably this year's ceremony will include 2 new awards, one for live games and one for mobile titles, with the former being added so the show is more reflective of games being ongoing services instead of one-time releases. The complete list of nominees features 102 games and individuals, and the winners are due to be revealed on Thursday, December 7th. You can head over to the Game Awards website for a full rundown, and they say we've taken the liberty of spotlighting some of the more notable categories below. So, Elliot has wrote in and said, "Good morning, what's good? Kind of funny. Running through the list of Game Awards nominations this morning, one section in particular stood out to me. Most anticipated game. On this list, we see Red Dead Redemption 2, Monster Hunter World, and then 3 PS4 exclusive games, The Last of Us 2, God of War, and Spider-Man. I wanted to point this out because even as a dedicated Xbox fan and an Xbox One X owner, Microsoft's first-party problem is perfectly demonstrated in this award nomination. 60% of the nominations are PlayStation exclusives, with the other 2 nominations having PlayStation marketing deals. Now, I believe that between 2013 and 2016, Xbox had the better exclusive lineup. Rise, Gears, Halo, Sunset Overdrive, Dead Rising, Tomb Raider, Forza games, just to name some. But in 2017 and now beyond, Sony looks dominant. Nier, Neo, Horizon, Uncharted. Microsoft has said that they are going to focus and fight on gaining ground in exclusive first-party games, but is this generation already won by PlayStation? If Xbox wasn't hoping to catch up, if Xbox wasn't able to gain ground when they had the better games coming out, how can they hope to catch up when Sony is back to dominating? Thank you for all the hard work and listening to the show every day. Go Vikings. Skol.
The anticipated game, I know everyone does it these days. It's a marketing gimmick. It's by far the least interesting. Or it's meaningless. Most anticipated. What does that mean?
It's super subjective, right? Like, I voted for Anthem to be in that category, and it didn't win because apparently not enough of my peers thought it was their most anticipated game. I think Monster Hunter World being on there in particular is a super shock to me, just because that franchise has been around for such a long time. And while I am excited to see, a console release instead of just a 3DS or a Vita title, I personally don't have a lot of interest in that game. But I think, speaking specifically to Elliot's call out of the PlayStation exclusives, PlayStation has been really investing in first-party games that you can only play on their platform, not just games like Xbox has been playing that you can play on PC or Xbox One. And I think that is a testament to how dedicated Sony has been to investing in their hardware. Now, I'm not saying Xbox isn't invested in making sure their hardware sells or not invested in their development studios, but Phil Spencer has talked at length about how games are important to the platform and how, since he's taken over in leadership, we've really seen a focus on games. But we've been calling this out for the last 2 years that they have been missing their exclusives, and particularly this holiday with Crackdown 3 slipping to next year. It kind of is like, where are the games, Xbox? And, I really hope that they've been working on some deals behind the scenes. I think PUBG is going to be great for them.
PUBG is huge.
Which, by the way, I know we missed it in the Roper Report now that I'm thinking about it, that they announced it's going into 1.0 the first week of December. But, I don't know if there's like a clear-cut answer to this.
First of all, again, I don't understand the point of a most anticipated game award. Like, what is that? It's like, it's no guarantee or barometer of quality. It feels like an award you would give to a marketing person. Like, is that a trophy you would really put on your shelf? What's that? Oh yeah, I was the most anticipated game that year. Like I don't understand that. Never understood the point of giving awards to games that no one's even seen yet. In terms of Xbox versus PlayStation, this is another one that I think is kind of overblown. I feel like the handful of games that are exclusive to each platform, which is in each case, is a tiny percentage of the games that are available. Is it like 95% of games on each platform right now are on both? So there's almost no daylight between the two consoles. Maybe One X has now opened a bit of a performance gap over the PS4 Pro because it seems like it is a more powerful machine from what I've experienced and what I've read so far. But it's largely a matter of taste. If you like Uncharted, I mean, they're not even making, probably, it looks like they're not even going to make Uncharted. Maybe Last of Us is a better one going forward. But if you like Uncharted, if you really, really like Gran Turismo, sure, get a PlayStation and you'll get all the multi-platform games as well. If you really like Halo and Gears of War, go over here. But it's a handful of games on each side, and I don't think it's that big a deal. But being able to, I think the smartest thing Microsoft did in years is backing up the money truck to PlayerUnknown and saying, please come and be exclusive on our platform, because a unicorn game like that just captures everyone's imagination and sells so many copies is a once in a generation thing. And I think that inevitably there's going to be Battlegrounds exclusive console editions and things like that. They will leverage this for all they're worth. And it's one really, really big thing they'll be able to say going into the holidays. You heard about everyone's talking about Battlegrounds. You want to play it, you got to come over here. And I don't think Sony has anything on the same level on their side this holiday.
Well, I mean, as far as like,
what do you think Sony has as exclusive that's as compelling as Battlegrounds?
As an exclusive?
Yeah, because that's what we're talking about, right? Exclusives.
I mean, it's tough to. I don't think that they have something as compelling as Battlegrounds. But the problem is Battlegrounds isn't Xbox One exclusive. It's a PC game first,
yes,
right?
But I think PC
and that's where PlayStation, and that's really I think what he's bringing up here. The Last of Us 2, Spider-Man, and Gears of War are 3 games you can only play on PS4. You can't play them on PC.
Did you say Gears of War?
No. I said God of War.
Okay, sorry,
me.
God of War.
If I said Gears of War, I meant God of War. My apologies.
Easy to get those two mixed up.
So those 3 games you can't play on PC at all, right? So like you have to buy a PlayStation 4 to play those 3 games specifically.
Yes.
And I think that that's worth bringing up here because Xbox's titles that you can only play on Xbox One just really don't exist anymore.
That's true. I do think that because it's already on PC, you could mark it down as like a slightly lesser exclusive. But in the realm of consoles, I think it's still very meaningful. I think, people who play PC games, it's a much more expensive and a very different experience than playing console games. I still think it's extremely meaningful on the Xbox side. At this point, again, I'm only speaking for my personal taste here. If you said I'm going to have to take one of your consoles away, which one do you want to keep? I'd keep the Xbox. Just because I feel like, again, it's purely personal taste. I like Gears of War. I like Halo. I like Forza Horizon. I like those kind of games. I'd be sorry to miss Last of Us and a couple of other things, but for the most part, again, most of the games we're talking about,
Spider-Man. You'd miss Spider-Man from Insomniac.
I don't know if I don't really care about Spider-Man. Again, it's personal taste.
Yeah, absolutely.
Most of the games I care about going forward, like my most anticipated game for next year is Red Dead, and that's on both consoles. Like most of them are. But I definitely want to. I love Battlegrounds on PC. I really want to try it on console. Only Xbox has got it. Fair play to them. It sounds like they spent a lot of money. However much they spent to get Battlegrounds exclusive on Xbox, I would have paid twice as much, and it still would have been a bargain.
Well, I'm sure when they made that deal, they weren't thinking that it was going to hit 20 million copies sold, because that partnership was announced back at E3, I think was that when that partnership was announced, and it was only in April that they hit the milestone of 1 million sold. So you have to imagine if they're announcing it in the summer, the deal probably got done in Q1, maybe spring. And that was when they were just starting to see it kind of like kick up dust.
But if PlayerUnknown and Bluehole are smart, as I suspect they are, they probably had that put into the contract language. If we're at a certain number by the time this releases, you have to pay us even more money.
I hope they did.
I imagine they did something like that.
So worth noting, Joe N writes in and says, did you see that PUBG was nominated for the Game of the Year? So the Game of the Year nominees are The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Super Mario Odyssey, PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds, Persona 5, and Horizon Zero Dawn. So Gary, we've talked about this on the show a lot. Not you and I specifically, but I have talked at length about how I don't think PUBG has any business winning Game of the Year.
No, it doesn't. There's only 2 games on this list that have any business winning.
But I have been, open to arguments, and Mr. Danny O'Dwyer was very active this morning in my Twitter feed, making a case for PUBG for Game of the Year.
He does love his PUBG. I've played with him. He loves it.
He does. About why it deserves to be nominated. Now, I still hold that there are several other games that I think should have taken PUBG's spot, especially considering that they didn't announce that they were going to be, and they still won't be, a full release by the time the awards cutoffs happen. They would technically be in contention for Game of the Year next year, but Mr. Keeley, who runs the awards, allowed its nomination. So, which 2 games here do you think are the only 2 in contention?
Zelda and Mario.
You don't think Horizon Zero Dawn... Oh, I know why you don't think Horizon Zero Dawn is in contention, because you haven't played it yet,
Okay,
Gary.
fair enough. But I have played, and I'm holding out for the pro version of it. That's the only reason why. I'm totally all in, but I want to have the best experience with it possible.
Well, then go get a pro.
All right, so okay. What do you think? I'm made of money? I'm a writer.
You sell your Scorpio, buy
I'll sell
a pro.
my spare Xbox and get a pro.
Exactly.
There you go. Perfect solution.
There you go.
Horizon Zero Dawn, let's just put a pin in it and say that it could well be as good as Zelda and Mario.
It's better than Zelda.
It's better than Zelda?
I can definitively say it's better than Zelda.
Let me ask you this right now. Just put you on the spot. Which of these is Game of the Year for you right now?
Horizon Zero Dawn still, but with a caveat. I have not played enough of Super Mario Odyssey to know if it will topple Horizon.
Have you quote unquote finished it? Have you beaten Bowser?
No.
Okay. Let's talk again after you've done that and played all the
How
post-game
about you play
content.
Horizon?
I'll play Horizon.
I'll play Mario.
You play Mario all the way through to the end.
And then we'll have a nice
And then we'll have
spirited
another
debate.
conversation. But you don't think Battlegrounds should be on the list?
No.
Why not?
Because it's not a finished game.
What does that matter? What does that matter?
It means it's in early access. Meaning by the time the game releases, a lot of games, when they're in open beta or early access, change some of their features quite dramatically by the time they come out.
Yes.
Which makes it hard to judge them for Game of the Year contention because you don't know exactly which parameters or which version of the game you're judging. And that's what makes it difficult. Just from that standpoint, also, I don't think that the overall achievements in that game, and I talked to Greg about this before, and obviously I don't want to get too in the weeds with a Game of the Year discussion here, but when you think about the writing and narrative work, the coding and programming work on the back end, the artistic work in not only like the character design, but like the level design, the artistry, the art direction. When you think about voice acting or performance or character development in a game, and then you think about gameplay loop, game direction, all of those categories. Don't forget about like music and all of that stuff. If you look at the spectrum of what makes up a game, I don't think PUBG ticks enough of those boxes to be a Game of the Year contender. Yeah,
and everyone I think that's a totally valid criteria to judge games by. Everyone does it differently. So I don't argue, I wouldn't disagree with that at all. Where I do disagree is I don't think the fact that it has a sticker on it that says early access should disqualify it. It's a real game.
Well, clearly,
it's not a demo. It's not a beta.
Clearly, a lot of people agree with you. It got nominated.
It's a real game that is being offered for money. People are playing it and having esports tournaments. It's out there. It's legitimate. I think in terms of, well, how do you rate it if it's not finished? Rate it on the state of the game's in the day you cast your vote. I don't think it has to be complicated.
Okay, and it's not going to win, so that's cool anyway.
It's not going to win Game of the Year, but I think it would. And this is only just one set of nominees, but there will be a lot of. There's hundreds of these Game of the Year awards. There'll be a lot out there for Best Shooter, and I think it will probably clean up Best Shooter, early access or not. What would be the top other contender? Wolf 2,
Destiny 2. Is a fantastic shooter. Don't even at me, Gary.
Grind. Carrot
Don't even at me, Gary.
I can't. I'm adding you.
Let's look
I'm
at
adding you right now.
Categories.
The only one that made me go, huh, here is Persona 5, because I'm not a Persona person, but I guess, did you go, huh, when you saw that as well?
I didn't, because all the girls that I work with at What's Good Games made a case for Persona 5, and a lot of other people I know in the business and community feedback have all made really good cases for why Persona 5 should be a contender for Game of the Year. I know that some people wrote into KFGD and were asking, because it technically released in Japan before it came out here in the States, which was earlier this year, does it still qualify? And yes, it does. I personally will not be voting for Persona because I have not played it, and it's now too late for me to really get a good grasp.
Before you vote.
But that's why there's multiple voices when we talk about Game of the Year voting. And I've talked to Greg about maybe us doing some kind of something on Gamescast or whatever, where we kind of like talk about like how does that voting process work and how do you weight opinions, and is it like just a straight democracy? And he's talked before about how back when he was at IGN, there would be people like going full politics, like lobbying for people's votes and trying to swing votes one way or another. And it's
I know Giant Bomb almost
process.
come to blows every year when they do theirs. So I just want to clarify this. You've played Zelda a bunch and you played Horizon Zero Dawn a bunch.
Correct.
You think Horizon Zero Dawn is better?
Yes.
So that more than anything makes me want to get to playing it, because Zelda is phenomenal.
Zelda
and if you're
is an
telling me there's a game out there better than that, I got to play it.
Yes. Like, and I have played more of Zelda Breath of the Wild than any other Zelda I've ever played in my life.
Right.
And it's definitely a superb piece of game.
I mean, there's so much more of it to play. I mean, it's a vast game.
Yeah, and they have the new DLC that's out or coming out soon.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's yeah.
What do you think? I know what you think should win. At the end of the day, when the dust is settled and 100 or so game awards have all been given out, usually there's a consensus. What do you think is going to be the last man standing here? Do you think?
I think it's going to be Nintendo against Nintendo, honestly. And I wouldn't be upset if one of those two Nintendo games won. And it's interesting, I talked to some of my friends who work at Nintendo about, I congratulated them on a fantastic year with Switch and all the new games. And they're like, we're actually worried that we're going to split our own vote and that we won't win because we'll split the vote between Zelda and Mario. And I was like, that's actually a very legitimate concern to have.
So I actually think I was going to make a similar point. I think it's a very good point you make, that I think that there's a chance here that Horizon Zero Dawn could end up taking this, not just here, but overall, because I think Mario and Zelda could split the vote. I'm looking, because I had this conversation with my wife, is I said to her, which one's your favorite? Which one would you say is the best game you played this year? She's like, oh my gosh, it was really, really hard for her to pick one. But you've got to, if you are determined to give your vote to a Nintendo game because you love those games, it's going to split between one or the other. I think that's really interesting. I will say just this, it gives me a very warm, fuzzy feeling, and I feel very good about the fact that a Zelda game and a Mario game are two of the best games of the year this year. It just feels very old school and right and proper.
It does.
And I'll ask that you're wrong. I don't know, when was the last time, if ever, that there has been a brilliant Mario game and a brilliant Zelda game out at the same time? They're usually a bit more staggered, aren't they?
I don't recall
has
year.
that ever been the case? I don't know. They usually stagger a bit more than that. Either Mario's the thing or Zelda's the thing. I don't remember the last time that in 1 year we got the best Zelda game ever, because it is. And I think arguably Galaxy is my other favorite, but I think this may be even better. The best Mario game ever made out at the same time. What a golden age.
Yes, golden age indeed. Too much to play, Gary. Too much good stuff.
It's the best problem to have. Too much good stuff.
And a big thank you to all of the best friends who have reached out to me on Twitter this morning, and for all of the support from my Kind of Funny team here. You guys have been great. I've gotten all of your messages, and I'm trying to respond to them all.
Because you have been nominated for an award.
I have been nominated, Gary.
Trending Gamer.
That's right. I didn't think that it would happen, because this is a peer voted award. So the nominees are compiled by a jury, and you can find out who all the jury members are on the Game Awards website, and now it's up to you guys to vote. So,
looking now that this has happened, you've at least had the morning to reflect on it. How do you think you achieved this? What made you a trending gamer? What does it mean to be a trending gamer?
I mean, according to the Game Awards, it says for a streamer, influencer, or media member who has made an important impact on the industry this calendar year. So what that means for me, I don't know. I didn't have an answer prepared for this. You're putting me on the spot,
That's
Gary.
what I do. I blindside you.
I think
you make a positive impact in some way.
It's hard for me to put a finger on it, because I've been doing this for so long, and this year has felt special because I'm finally kind of finding my own voice, and I have been working at so many different outlets over so many years. Having What's Good Games and running it with an amazing team of ladies who I love and admire has been not only a big amazing personal goal to be able to start my own company, but to also get that opportunity to get that voice out there and to have us be able to have a platform to talk about games on and to get the feedback from all of our viewers at What's Good saying like, I've been waiting for this, like, thank you for even existing, and how we get parents that will write in and tell us like, like their little girls listen to the show, and
that's great
because there's like no other show for them to listen to. I mean, thankfully we have the Polygon show now too, but
you don't have to go back that far. There were no voices like this. Right?
That's true.
There wasn't anything like this kind of diversity and inclusion. It's come a long way in a short time.
Yes, and I just wanted to say a big thank you to all the best friends. You guys are great, and I love being part of this team. So,
does it make it less special that Greg has previously won this award?
No, because I absolutely think that he deserves to win. He's an amazing person, and I love working with him. And I know you're looking for me to throw him under the bus right now.
Oh no, I can do that all by myself. You're the good cop here.
But no, he absolutely deserved his award, and so I'm looking forward to seeing who wins in these other categories.
So are you gonna go, and are you gonna be there like Lenny on The Simpsons, like waiting to see? Do you have like your face, like if it's not you and the camera might be? Do you have to kind of like you have to do the kind of gracious in case you don't get picked? Or
but there's so many,
oh my God, it's me! Like,
there's so many great people in this category, and like my personal friend Steven Spawn from Able Gamers is in this category as well, and so
and Dr. Disrespect.
I've never met Guy. Obviously he's got a gigantic fan base, and he's done a lot of video game content over the years. And
Shroud, who is just an incredible player to watch. I got into stream. I never really cared about Twitch streaming, but I got into it through Battlegrounds, and I started watching The Dark and Shroud. And man, when you watch a couple of those guys, when like 4 of those streamers, like Dark and Shroud, and like Grims, and I'm trying to think of some of the others, like Anthony Kong fan, when they form a squad and go, oh my God, it's like it's supernatural what those guys do in a video game. It makes me not want to play because they're so fucking good.
You just can't play against them, I guess.
I know. One of my favorite moments ever is watching my friend Will Smith, who tweets a lot, or streams, I should say, a lot, playing PUBG. He got killed by Grims in a clip, which I believe we forced him to watch many, many, many times.
That sounds mean.
Well, congratulations.
Thank
and best
you.
Of luck.
Thank you very much. But Gary.
Yes.
People can play PUBG, and they have been able to play PUBG. If people wanted to know what's new, what's hot, what's fresh in the mom and pop digital shops, where would they go?
That would be the official list of upcoming software across each and every platform as listed by the Kind of Funny Games daily show hosts. That's us.
That's us.
Each and every weekday. And today is a weekday, so I guess we got to do it. There's a long list here.
It is. Well, it's a Tuesday.
Tuesday is drop day.
Exactly.
Everything drops on a Tuesday.
Even though a lot of people are releasing on Friday now, but
right.
A big list today. So I'm going to run down these quickly because I know we're running pretty long today. Batman: The Telltale Series is out on Switch. Ben 10 is for PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. Cat Quest on PS4. Chinese Paladin: Sword and Fairy 6 on PC. Demon Gaze 2 on PS4 and Vita. Far From Noise, PS4 and PC. Farming Simulator 17 Platinum Edition, PS4, Xbox One, PC,
I've been waiting
Mac.
for that platinum. I've been holding off on Farming Simulator for the Plat Edition.
Harvest Moon: Light of Hope on PC. Injustice 2 coming to PC. It'll Do 2 Plus on Switch. Killing Floor Incursion for HTC Vive. LA Noire, PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. Lego Marvel Superheroes 2, PS4, Xbox One, PC, and Switch. Outcast: Second Contact, PS4, Xbox One, and PC. The PS4 Pro 1TB limited edition Star Wars Battlefront 2 bundle is out today. Road Rage is out for PS4, Xbox One, and PC. Rocket League is finally out on Switch. Star Wars Battlefront 2, the Elite Trooper Deluxe Edition, you can play today, a PS4, Xbox One, PC. The Sims 4 Deluxe Party Edition is out for PS4 and Xbox One. Tokyo Tattoo Girls for PC and Vita. Valhalla for Vita, and De Blob for PS4 and Xbox One.
What are you excited about on this list this week?
For this week, I mean, the only game that I honestly am looking forward to potentially checking out from this specific list would be Lego Marvel Superheroes 2.
That's top of my list too.
Because I've already been playing Star Wars, and a lot of these games, I don't know what they are. But Cat Quest, just because it's cats.
You got to look at it, right?
And
Tokyo Tattoo Girls as well, maybe.
Watch a trailer.
I'm very excited. The whole family, we love the Lego games in our house. The whole family plays, and we love the first Lego Marvel Superheroes, so very excited about this new one. Really excited actually to revisit LA Noire in 4K.
Yeah?
That was a great game.
See, yeah, we just disagree here, Gary.
You didn't like L.A. Noire?
I fell asleep 3 times playing that game.
Really? Wasn't your cup of tea?
I felt like it was so slow. I thought that the
slow.
graphics were incredible. I remember at the time, it was like Team Bondi, like it was an amazing feat in animation, but I just I could not get into it.
Fair enough. Rocket League on Switch is cool to see. I actually, now that it's on PC, it reminds me, so many people have been talking about Injustice 2.
Oh,
to the level of it should have been on a Game of the Year list. Like people really like Injustice 2.
I believe it's Fighting Game of the Year nominated.
I suspect it will be. I've had so many people telling me it's great. I gotta look into grabbing a copy of that.
Yeah, it's the story mode, the campaign in that game was excellently
That's what
done.
I hear. The campaign mode is actually really, the story's good.
Yeah, NetherRealm really did a fantastic job with that game.
And
yes, it is
out-
nominated for Best Fighting
And they're
Game.
rolling out all this cool DLC. You can play Ninja Turtles in there now.
Well, not
Fantastic.
yet, but soon.
But it's coming.
Yes.
Yep.
Indeed. Okay, so I completely skipped doing new dates. That's my bad. So if you guys are watching live on twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames and you know of a new date, you can go ahead and drop it to me in kindoffunny.com/you're wrong. Deals of the day from Wario64. If you guys don't follow him on Twitter, he constantly tweets.
That guy's a
awesome game
ninja
deals.
when it comes to deals.
He is.
He's
and
a
not
deal
just
ninja.
deals, like news. He's like always on it.
Yeah.
He's great. So he found that Plants vs. Zombies, the original, is free on Origin. I love that game. One of the best games of all time. PopCap did an incredible job. If you never played it and you want to, it's free. Redbox is doing a reserve select games get the first night free promotion. So if you guys want to rent some games and get some nights for free, you can check out the details of that promotion over at redbox.com. Okay, time for reader mail. This is where you, the audience who listens to Kind of Funny Games Daily, can write in with your thoughts, your comments, your questions, and let us know what you would like to hear. You can do that at kindoffunny.com/KFGD. This first one comes from Alex, and we're going to unfortunately have to keep this section a little brief today. Hey, Andrea and Gary. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the Xbox One X since you guys have had roughly a week to mess around with the new system. Thanks for all of your hard work each and every day.
Have you played with it much?
Oh, yes.
What do you think?
I love it. I think it's great.
Do you think it's worth having it over that much worth having it over an X? Like it's $200 more worth having?
I have said this before and we'll say it again. If you are the person who likes having the new hot tech, who likes getting the biggest, baddest iPhone, who likes having, like the top tier technical experience.
Yes, this is me. This is all, you're describing me to a T.
Then yes, it absolutely is worth the money. But the thing is you have to be ready to make the investment. You have to have a 4K TV.
Yes.
Even though I have tried it on a regular 1080p TV, still looks amazing. The upscaling is great. And there's a lot of Xbox One X enhanced games that aren't upscaled all the way to 4K, that are just doing high end or like checkerboard solutions that aren't quite 4K.
Yes.
So you don't need it, but I mean, to get the most out of it, you really
The 4K
want
and the
a 4K
HDR
TV.
is where it's at. And it's
the
like when
HDR in particular,
It's like when the 360 and the PS3 came out. Like if you really wanted to get the best, I remember a friend of mine had it got the 360 and it plugged into a 480 TV, and I'm like, you're not getting this yet. Like you need to get this plugged into a HD TV. And now we're seeing the real investment is, like I said, if you haven't already bought a 4K TV, and many people obviously haven't yet, you got to factor that into the equation if you want the full bang for your buck. But I'll say the same thing I said to Greggy when I was on here last week. Like it's almost jarring when you play games on a big TV, and I was playing some FIFA 18 in 4K, and it looks like you're watching a game on television. It
really
uncanny.
does, yeah. And
like it's almost like it's weird because it all doesn't look like a video game. Like everything is so razor sharp. It's almost jarring. Like there's a little almost like an uncanny valley jump that you have to get over before you go, okay, I'm playing a game now. But it's crazy how sharp the visuals are.
I've been very impressed, and I've been doing tests with both my Xbox One X and my PlayStation 4 Pro with our new 4K TV, and both of them look great. But for some reason, the performance on the Xbox One X, just seems to run a little bit smoother. And I think that obviously has to do with the fact that it just has more power. It doesn't have like substantially more power, but it does have more power. That's just like in the specs. So I think that they both are great systems, but if you are an Xbox ecosystem person and you've been looking to upgrade and you want to future-proof, your gaming console for when you maybe buy a 4K TV either at Black Friday or maybe next year, and you're willing to make the investment to have the big shiny thing, I think it's great. And if you're not, the Xbox One S, also a great option as well.
I think this is the whole reason why Microsoft did the One X. I think they were getting tired of that narrative where, again, there's not a lot of difference between the Xbox One and the PS4, the base models. But there was always this narrative of like, yeah, but the PS4 is just a bit more powerful. And I think they probably lost a lot of sales to that narrative because they wasted so much time and so much power, that bullshit waste of time, garbage Kinect peripheral, which they've now Stalined out of existence. Like Kinect, never heard of it. Like it doesn't, if you talk to Microsoft, Kinect, what's that? Like I think they were just so embarrassed by it that they just kind of shoved it into the dustbin of history where it belongs. But it cost them so much of the original Xbox One was built around the Kinect because they thought it was going to be integral to the system, and then they got rid of it. But I think they weren't able to optimize the Xbox One as much as Sony, that didn't have that stupid peripheral, were able to optimize their system. And now, fair play to them, they've flipped the script. Now the conversation is how the One X is more powerful than the PS4 Pro. So they've flipped the narrative. It'll be interesting to see if that makes a difference in the long run.
Yeah, I wish them well. I've wanted them to have a win for a while. I've been, critical of them throughout the year, and particularly around E3 and the messaging that they had at E3. It got jumbled. It got, confusing. And I'm glad that, they've kind of gotten their ducks in a row and are like, okay, this is what we want. And they really have stayed true to their moniker of wanting to create a portfolio for gamers. And I think, I really hope that they're teeing themselves up to have a home run at E3 next year with some really big partnership announcements, because the hardware's there now. And the only thing I see wrong with this hardware, and it's not indicative of the box itself, is just the timing, that maybe it's a little premature, that if they had held the release until there was more reasons specifically to
more
have
4K
an Xbox
TVs
One.
Out there, more content in 4K,
more Xbox exclusive content in 4K.
Right.
They have done a great job working with their partners for games that have already been released. But I'm probably only going to go back and play maybe a handful of games that have been enhanced for Xbox One X. I'm really looking forward to what's coming out next year. That's going to be Xbox One X enhanced.
Be interesting to go back and look at where was 1080p HD TV adoption when the Xbox 360 and the PS3 came out, compared to where 4K is now. I feel like
I think it's like a sliver compared to that.
Yeah, I feel like 4K is more nascent than HD TV was at the time, right? I know a handful of people other than myself who have a 4K TV, and I think they're mostly in this room right now. And including other people that are early, I consider early tech adopters, have not felt like they've reached that tipping point yet where it's worth getting 4K. I think the One X and the Pro. And you go to Target or Best Buy, wherever now, all the TVs you can buy are pretty much 4K. That's just what you get now. But a lot of people don't feel the need to upgrade. So when it's time for a new TV, you're going to get a 4K. But plenty of people are just like, I'm happy with what I've got. So it's a little bit chicken and egg, right? You wait for the TV to get the content, but you also want the content you also wait for the content to get the TV. So we'll see.
We shall see. But thank you for your question and for writing in. We'll do one more quickly here before we wrap up the show. And this one comes from Shane Sharma. Shane says, "What's good, Andrea and Gary? I'll just cut right to the chase. Recently, Tim and Greg have been praising how well Nintendo has been pushing out a great lineup since the Switch's launch, and up until the end of this year, we haven't seen any delays or slowdowns so far. My question is, how long do you think Nintendo can keep this streak up? I would love to continue to see them succeed, but seeing as how they've already pushed out arguably their two biggest franchises one after another, I'm having trouble seeing what else they can offer to bring the majority of gamers in after this year. One word for you, Shane. Pokemon. We have not seen the Pokemon on Switch yet. We know they're working on it.
Well, they have Pokken Tournament on there, but that's just a port. Where's the new
Right. So we know that they're working on one, right? Specifically a brand new one for Switch.
Yep.
I think that is a gigantic reason why people are going to come. They also have Xenoblade, I believe, coming out later this year. When's the release date on that guy?
I dropped into my wife dropped into Zelda yesterday, and there was a big thing that was like a Xenoblade Chronicles crossover content drop that's happened. Like a side quest, and it was Xenoblade branded. So they're already kind of laying the groundwork for this. And, Smash Brothers, there's a Switch Smash Brothers coming. That's going to be massive.
Oh, well, I guessed that they would do like a Smash Brothers Deluxe, kind of like they did with Mario
with
Kart,
Mario Kart 8.
where they would take the 3DS and Wii U version of the game and just kind of like up-res it, kind of put a new coat of paint, maybe add some new characters, maybe a new mode or something, and then they would release that. I don't think we're going to get an entirely new Smash Brothers.
At all this generation?
Well, I mean, I honestly don't think so, because if you think about how many years are between the Smash Brothers releases, and the kind of balancing that fighting games in particular take to get right, I don't know. If there was another brand new Smash, it would have to be like at the end of the generation.
Okay, it's another you're wrong. Does every generation of Nintendo console get its own Smash Brothers, or do they sometimes skip a generation?
I do not have the answer to that question.
Someone will know.
Somebody knows out there. Hopefully they'll get it before we get to the end, because we're rapidly approaching it. But I think that Nintendo has a lot of reasons for people to stick around, and we'll hopefully find out more about those soon. And they have a bunch of franchises that, even though we did get Zelda and Mario, I mean, both of those games are probably going to get additional DLC. Mario in particular, I hope will get additional DLC. And I think that even if they don't have a major franchise release next year, I don't think it's going to hurt them. I think that their upswing is really good right now. I think third party is looking at it as a viable platform finally. I think indies are succeeding in droves on Switch, and that more partners will be able to look at their titles and say, hey, can we make a version of this for Switch? And I think that that's nothing but good for them.
I think that question is born of over the years we've developed this narrative of like, when's Nintendo how are they gonna screw up this time? Because they've done it so many times, like they've shot themselves in the foot so many times in so many previous generations, that even now, almost 1 year later, clearly I think it's the best year, the best first year for any Nintendo console, probably one of the best years that Nintendo's ever had overall. And yet so now we're saying, okay, yeah, one of the best years ever, but can they sustain it? How are they going to? They're going to screw this up somehow. Like, we're still thinking that's going to happen because we've been burned so many times before. But I want to believe that the Switch, this first year of the Switch, and I'll make this prediction. I'll come back on the show a few years from now, if I'm still around, and defend this. I think that the Switch is going to go down 5 years from now. We'll look back on it as a golden era for Nintendo.
Indeed.
I want to believe that. I want to believe.
Well, let's hold out hope, Gary Whitta.
I'm nothing if not optimistic.
So it's time to move on to Squad Up. This is where you, the Kind of Funny best friends, write in to kindoffunny.com/KFGD and let us know what console you're playing on, or which platform, if it's PC or maybe mobile or Mac, and you maybe need some best friends to help you play some multiplayer games. I'm realizing now that after I've pasted this into the document that Jeff G here gave me a handle, but he put Switch as the platform, but it's not a friend code. So he writes in and says he wants to be part of Squad Up because I like trying to help other people have fun playing their favorite games. But his handle is Gentle Jeffrey, spelled exactly like you think it is, Jeffrey. But he said Switch. But
he's on Switch?
But that's not a Switch. That's not a Switch friend code.
Yeah, it's not a friend code. And is there really much squadding up happening on? There's not a lot of organized multiplayer on
Splatoon 2, really?
I know, but it's all done through that ridiculous app, and like it's the last place you want to go to squad up these days. I guess maybe that means they need that help more than anyone.
Maybe.
Because
Can I steal this one?
Yes.
I got a Switch yesterday. Can I shout myself out?
Of course you can, Cool Greg.
if you've got a friend code, that's what people need. You got
All
your
right.
digits.
I'm ready, man.
All right.
So friend code is SW744179648014.
Read it one more time, Cool Greg.
SW744179648014.
Hit up Cool Greg on the Nintendo Switch.
I love
Just
Nintendo,
got his.
but when are they going to get rid of these ridiculous friend codes?
That's a whole other conversation for another time, Gary. Now it's time to get to your wrong. This is where you guys write in to let us know what we screwed up so we can make sure that people listening on the podcast and watching on YouTube get all of the corrections that they need. So, first up, KBabZ writes in and says, the previous record holder for the most downvoted Reddit comment was someone asking for people to downvote his comment.
Oh, so they were deliberately, that was like a stunt. They were
Yeah.
deliberately going for downvotes. And
Yes.
yeah, and the Battlefront thing beat that. Wow.
Yes. So the previous record holder had 24,333 downvotes. Currently, the Star Wars comment has 682,636
Wait, what were those
downvotes.
two numbers again?
24,000 versus 682,000.
So they beat it by like a factor of 20?
Yeah, oh my gosh.
Like a factor of 30.
It's really crazy.
They didn't just beat that record, they obliterated it.
Yeah, thank you, Abrac, for those numbers. Wow. That is nuts. Well,
that's astonishing.
PD0000 said, nitpicky, but Andrea said players have noticed the Battlefront 2 problems through their early access via EA access if you pre-order. The latter is incorrect. Not all pre-orders get you early access. The Elite Trooper Deluxe Edition gets you 3 days of early access, and that began today. Thank you for that correction. Well,
wait, so
okay.
when can everyone play Battlefront 2? Today?
No, everyone can play it on Friday, November 17th.
Okay.
That's
okay.
when it's open for everybody.
Got it.
Ignacio Rojas, I hope I got your name right this time, said Greg already has a moniker for Gary. Witta Wednesday's own Gary Witta.
Oh, okay. I guess that's
or
true.
Or Rogue One's Gary Witta.
I know. I've asked him to change that because I feel like Witta
Yeah.
Wednesday is more current, more contemporary.
Yeah, but we want you guys to write in with your suggestions too. I think that would be good. That's not. Well, I don't know if that's really a you're wrong.
I feel like there was a couple of things, like flares that we put up. Like I was asking people to clarify things that we weren't sure about. Like when did games go to $60 and things like that? Did anyone chime in on that?
This is a good point. Let me see here. Intech36 says, I'd like to point out that the issue isn't balance. I'm sure he's referring to Star Wars Battlefront 2 here. It's that the game has pay to win in it, which I mentioned, and that feels like people have forgotten that that's a core issue. I think, we discussed that at length.
At length.
Okay, so you had mentioned this before we went live, but Try Skeeth 13 says, not a you're wrong, but more of a you miss this bit. It has since been shown that not only have the cost of these heroes go down by 75%, but rewards have been reduced by a relative amount.
Oh, so that was confirmed?
An example, the campaign once rewarded players with 20,000 credits, and it now rewards 5,000. That was from a Game Informer article.
Right.
So if you guys want to learn more about that, but it seems to be across the board. And thank you for your congratulations on the nomination. I appreciate that. And Gary, he wants to say, I just wanted you to know, I love you, dude. You're the dude.
Oh, thank you very much.
Somebody else mentioning the same thing about Star Wars. More Star Wars.
Have you been playing it, Battlefront?
I played the first 3 chapters that were in the EA Early Access.
The campaign?
Yeah.
Yeah, how do you like it?
I like it so
I
far.
feel like I'm at least going to play the campaign.
I mean, the animation is beautiful and it looks great in 4K.
Yeah.
Well, it's not true 4K, I don't think. But
You're on One X or Pro?
I'm playing it on the X. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I got to try it. I mean, it's Star
Okay,
Wars.
here's the It's a Beautiful Day says, not necessarily a you're wrong, but on the topic of the game price points not changing for years. While this may be the case in the US, in Australia and New Zealand, retail releases of AAA games have grown by $10 every console generation. And the PS2 Xbox Gen games were $70.99, and PS3 360 Gen games were $89.99, and in this generation, games are $99.99, with some games even starting to cost $109.99.
One thing I do know about gaming in Australia is that those guys get gouged price-wise probably more than anyone on the planet.
Taxes, man.
Yeah, it's outrageous.
Yep, it's expensive there. So that is interesting, though. I think it would make sense to increase. I remember stories coming out when the PS4, Xbox One console era began and people being like, the price of the games is staying the same, which was shocking then.
Yeah.
And it's even more shocking today. So an interesting thing to maybe note, and maybe the guys can talk about on the show tomorrow. Box's Best says, not really you're wrong, but pertinent information in Battlefront 2. EA has removed the refund button on Origin for this game. You don't have to call their customer support, which can potentially take hours to get a refund. Just in case you want to give them the benefit of the doubt, you shouldn't.
Okay, that's that. If that is true, that's disgusting.
I would have to research that myself. I've never asked for a refund for a game, so I don't know. Renegade Overlord.
Yeah, let's
says,
get. I would like to get some confirmation on that because if that's true,
Yeah.
I'm gonna come back some other time and do.
Are you
whole
coming
other
back tomorrow?
No, I'm here today because I can't do tomorrow.
Okay.
But maybe I'll show up just because I'm so disgusted if that turns out to be true. I'll have like my Howard Beale network moment.
Amazing.
I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore.
That's such a great movie. Kids, if you've never watched Network, watch it.
Classic.
Gary's new moniker, according to Renegade Overlord, should be Gary Witta, Truth Spitta, aka The Truth.
I'll take it.
The Truth,
I'll
Gary
take
Witta.
it. The truth. I sound like a boxer. I'll take it.
Okay.
But nothing else that we were wrong on? It sounds like we did okay if that's all you got.
Yeah, this is an interesting one from K Babs. There's a couple more. The Super Mario Brothers movie was a live action because CG animated movies weren't established yet. That's
true.
Well, I mean, animation had been established for quite a long time. By
Yeah, they could have done it in
1995.
tradition. They could have done it in traditional animation.
Right, like
Back
the
in
hand-drawn.
'93, CG animation would have been
Right.
pretty ropey.
Toy Story, which is kind of like the tentpole
Toy Story
there.
didn't come out until what, 95?
1995, 2
Yeah.
years after the Super Mario
Yeah.
Brother movie.
So it wasn't really an option. Well, I mean, the option would have been don't make the fucking movie. They should have done that option.
Yes. Yes. I got my train of thought just got lost because number 2 from K-Babs is Charles Martinet's first role as Mario was in 1990 for trade show depictions of the character where he talked to people in line. His breakout role as the character, of course, was Super Mario 64 in 1996. And number 3, Andrea implied that Illumination Studios had a fantastic track record with the exception of the original Despicable Me. None of their movies have a Metacritic rating of higher than 62. Hold the phone. Just because their Metacritic ratings aren't high doesn't mean that they haven't made millions of dollars. And that was my point. And also, I like all the Despicable Me movies. Whatever.
Yeah.
They're great.
Yeah, and kids love them, and that's the market.
Yes.
That's
I mean,
who they're
are they
made
as
for.
successful as Pixar? Of course not.
Who is?
Or even as DreamWorks? No. But I like what they make. All right. More stuff about Star Wars.
I mean, that's the hot button topic this week, isn't it? For sure.
This is okay. This is a little nitpicky, but I'm going to mention it. Hey, Ocarina says Andrea mentioned Monster Hunter games being on the PlayStation Vita, but that's not true. At least not in the United States. In Japan and Asia, they released Monster Hunter Frontier G, but that never managed to get a localized release stateside. So, did they release on Vita? Yes, they did. Thank you.
So you're throwing that one back in their face.
Yes. I mean, if they released in another country, it doesn't mean they never released on Vita, right? Right. Okay, one more. Oh my God, there's a whole other page. Hold on.
Wait, hold on. I thought we were doing okay. There's another page.
Okay, Abrax says, I don't think either are quite on the level of Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey, but Mario Sunshine and The Wind Waker both came out in 2002. So that's a Zelda and Mario
I mean,
together.
I actually have a lot of fondness for Sunshine, but I know that in the main, it's viewed as not one of the best Mario games. But that was the last time there was a major Mario and Zelda released the same year.
Well, Awesome Nasic says immediately afterwards, Super Mario 3D World on Wii U and The Legend of Zelda A Link Between Worlds on 3DS were both released in November 2013.
I would count that. I think that's legitimate. Link Between Worlds is amazing. Just because it's on handheld doesn't matter.
Yes, it's a really good game. The only Zelda game so far that I finished.
So you haven't
Between
finished
Worlds.
Breath of the Wild?
Not yet.
Okay.
No. I get distracted, you know? It's,
Like you said, too much good stuff.
Not okay. So C. Burrata says not a misfact, but IGN is reporting that GameStop has suspended its Game Pass rental service. They are issuing refunds to anyone who already subscribed, and they get one free pre-owned game. Oh man, that's a story in IGN. Missed it. I'll have
Guess
to
that
send
wasn't
that to
working
Greg
out
for
for them, the
tomorrow.
Game Pass.
Oh, Capitalist Pig says Xenoblade Chronicles 2 release date is December 1st. Thank you very much. And Abrax says every Nintendo home console since N64 has had its own Smash. No skips yet.
Okay, so that makes me think that it would be sad if all we got on Switch was a remaster and not a full new game. So I'm hoping. I think that they did the Mario 8 Deluxe because they really wanted to have something like that right out front as a
That makes
close
sense.
to a launch
Something to
title.
play.
But yeah, I think if they've managed to keep that streak going ever since, what did you say, since N64?
N64.
Then I'm
Wii U.
going to hold out hope that there's a full fat Smash Brothers for Switch is coming, and not just
I mean,
deluxe.
that console was just released this year. They got plenty of time.
Yeah, they got years to go.
Yes, and that'll do it for You're Wrong. Thank you so much, everybody, to writing in and keeping us honest. We couldn't do this without you guys. Wow, this has been a long one, Gary Whitta. Sorry,
it's
friends.
always long when it tends to go long when I do it with Greg as well, because I talk too much.
Tomorrow's hosts are Greg and Tim, maybe? I don't know who's tomorrow's hosts are.
Because it was going to be me. And
Greg didn't tell me. So it'll be probably Greg and somebody. Cool, Greg, do you know?
No, I don't. Sorry.
Okay,
Greg
don't worry.
and a player to be named later.
But we hope you tune in. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I just blanked on what Greg's last line is. It's
been
our
a pleasure
pleasure to serve you.
And then we shake hands.
And then we shake hands. Thanks, Gary.
Thank you, Andrea.